Rows of brand new SUVs are sitting under the sun, untouched, forgotten, and bleeding money by the hour. Just 3 years ago, these very models had waiting lists. Customers would fight for the privilege of paying $10,000 over sticker price. Today, those same SUVs are abandoned on dealer lots, discounted by $20,000 or more, and still nobody wants them. What happened? How did the hottest vehicles in America become unsellable, radioactive assets that dealers would practically pay you to take away? The answer reveals not just a market correction, but a full-scale collapse, one that has already begun to reshape the auto industry. Dealers are drowning in unsold inventory. They don't really own the cars you see parked outside their glass showrooms. Every single one is financed on what's called floor plan credit. It means that every day, every SUV sitting unsold costs them money. $30 per vehicle, per day. That may sound small until you multiply it by 200 cars, each sitting for 6, 8, even 10 months. We're talking $180,000 a month. Gone. Before a single sale. Before a single commission. Before a single customer even walks through the door. It's a financial death spiral. Interest piles up, vehicles lose value, and customers know the fire sale is coming. No matter how much dealers slash prices, buyers hold off, waiting for even bigger discounts. And the longer they wait, the worse the dealer's position becomes. That BMW X2 that looked overpriced in February, it has already cost the dealer more than $5,000 in carrying fees. The Dodge Hornet that was supposed to be Dodge's great new crossover? Dealers have paid nearly a quarter of its sticker price just in interest to keep it sitting there, unsold month after month. This is not just about luxury badges. It's about an entire system unraveling. Manufacturers kept building at record pace, ignoring the warning signs. Rental car giants miscalculated, dumping tens of thousands of vehicles into an already weak market. At the same time, repossessions have surged to levels not seen since 2009. Every day, 15,000 cars are seized from their owners and dumped at auction, flooding the system with cheap inventory. The result? Dealers are trapped, customers are scared, and the SUV, once the undisputed king of American driveways, has become the industry's most dangerous liability. But here's the shocking twist. While this collapse is destroying dealerships, it's creating a once-in-a-generation opportunity for you. For the first time in decades, the leverage belongs not to the seller, but to the buyer. The dealer's loss can be your gain if you know where to look and how to act. Imagine driving away in a luxury SUV, brand new, with a discount that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Imagine saving 20, even 30% off the price, simply because the dealer cannot afford to let the vehicle sit one more day. In the next few minutes, we're going to reveal the 10 SUVs that dealers literally cannot give away, explain why they've turned into financial sinkholes, and show you how to use this crisis to your advantage. This is not just information, it's the inside map to the greatest car deals of our lifetime. For dealers, this glut is catastrophic. Unlike what most people believe, dealerships don't actually own the cars sitting on their lots. They borrow money from banks or manufacturers through what's called floor plan credit. Every car is essentially a loan with a daily interest charge, usually around $30. When interest rates were near zero, it didn't matter. A car would sell fast enough that the carrying cost was negligible. But now, with some SUVs sitting for 9 or 10 months, the math has become brutal. A Dodge Hornet sitting unsold for 270 days racks up more than $8,000 in interest before it even leaves the lot. Multiply that across 10 or 20 unsold units, and the numbers quickly become lethal. Dealers in Texas and Michigan have reported floor plan bills exceeding $200,000 0 cents a month, enough to wipe out any profit from the few cars they actually do manage to sell. This isn't just happening to obscure brands or poorly reviewed models. It's hitting the prestige names that once defined the market. The Audi Q5, once a bestseller, now has nearly 7,600 units languishing nationwide. With a 179-day supply, Jaguar's F-Pace, once the brand's flagship SUV, is sitting at a staggering 310 days supply, meaning dealers have effectively paid over $9,000 0 cents in interest for each unsold vehicle. Some showrooms have turned into mausoleums, with entire corners filled by models that haven't moved since winter. Sales managers joke grimly about turning the keys over to the bank before a customer ever takes a test drive. And yet, the official story from manufacturers is that demand will recover. That's the narrative they're desperate to sell, but inside the industry, the whispers are darker. A leaked report from one major automaker suggested that nearly 40% of their dealers are financially distressed, a polite way of saying they are weeks away from insolvency. One unnamed executive admitted that the company would rather sacrifice smaller dealerships than cut production because slowing down the factories would spook investors. The strategy is simple: push the pain down the chain, let the dealers carry the losses, and hope buyers eventually return. But they're not returning. Economic uncertainty, higher loan interest rates, and the flood of repossessed vehicles hitting the used market have shifted buyer behavior dramatically. Families who might have stretched to afford a $60,000 zero-cent luxury SUV in 2022 are now hunting for reliable used cars at half the price. Even customers with money are hesitating, aware that prices are falling month after month. Why buy today if the same car will be $10,000 cheaper in 3 months? Dealers feel this hesitation acutely. One manager in California confessed that his staff spends more time calling potential buyers back with deeper discounts than they do closing deals. To make matters worse, entire fleets of rental companies are hitting the auction block, dumping nearly 2 million SUVs and sedans into the system this year alone. Hertz alone is offloading 40,000 Teslas, further saturating a market already drowning in inventory. Each wave of cars hitting auctions drags values lower, leaving dealers trapped with new SUVs they can't sell without massive losses. The result is an industry in freefall. Analysts warn that up to a quarter of dealerships could vanish within the next year. Communities that once relied on local dealers for jobs, service, and financing may soon be left with empty lots and boarded-up showrooms. What was once the most profitable segment of the automotive world, luxury and premium SUVs, has become its most toxic liability. The collapse is here, and it's spreading faster than anyone wants to admit. Most car buyers have no idea that the cars sitting on a dealer's lot aren't actually owned by the dealer. The shiny rows of SUVs you see out front are financed through something called floor plan credit, essentially a massive revolving loan extended by banks or captive finance arms of automakers. Each car comes with a meter attached to it, ticking away interest charges every single day it remains unsold. When interest rates were near zero, this system worked. Dealers could carry inventory for a few months, sell at a healthy profit, and the cost of financing was little more than background noise. But in 2025, with borrowing costs at multi-decade highs and demand collapsing, floor plan interest has become a noose around the neck of the dealership business model. On average, dealers pay around $30 per day per vehicle in floor plan interest. It doesn't sound like much until you multiply it by hundreds of vehicles. A mid-sized dealer with 200 cars on the lot is bleeding $6,000 zero cents every day just in financing charges, close to $180,000 zero cents per month. That's before payroll, utilities, insurance, advertising, or the commissions that keep the sales staff motivated. In effect, dealers are waking up each morning already deep in the red. The situation is so severe that some dealers have started parking vehicles off-site in rented storage lots to avoid the embarrassment of rows of unsold cars. But the cost doesn't disappear. Every one of those stored SUVs still carries that daily interest charge, whether it's visible to customers or not. The burden is even heavier for vehicles that simply don't move. The Dodge Hornet, with its 9 months of supply, has racked up more than $8,000 zero cents in interest costs per unit. The Jaguar F-Pace, which now averages over 300 days on lots, is costing dealers more than $9,300 zero cents each before even considering depreciation. These are staggering sums that instantly erase any hope of making a profit when the vehicle finally does sell, usually at a steep discount. A dealer in Ohio revealed that by the time one of his BMW X2S left the lot, the store had lost $6,700 zero cents on it after accounting for interest, rebates, and advertising. His words were blunt. "We're not selling cars anymore. We're paying to get rid of them." Some insiders claim the floor plan model itself is breaking down. A leaked memo from a regional auto finance lender suggested that default rates on floor plan loans had doubled since the start of the year. In certain markets, lenders have already seized vehicles directly from dealers who missed payments, towing them to auction yards where they sell for pennies on the dollar. One Midwestern dealership reportedly lost 40 SUVs overnight when the bank executed a repossession order. The next morning, customers who had appointments to test drive those very vehicles were greeted by empty spaces on the lot. The squeeze is made worse by automakers themselves. Instead of slowing production, many continue to pressure dealers to accept shipments regardless of whether they have sold down old inventory. Dealers who refuse shipments risk losing incentives, advertising support, or future allocations of more desirable models. One Texas Ford dealer admitted he was forced to accept a truckload of Mach-E's he didn't order, even though he already had 20 sitting unsold. Each additional car adds hundreds of dollars more to his daily interest bill. In response, some dealers are resorting to desperate measures. Reports have surfaced of dealerships offering employee pricing plus $10,000, 0 cents off, or bundling unpopular SUVs with service perks just to reduce the floor plan burden. A dealership group in Florida even ran a private sale where they promised to sell vehicles at their floor plan payoff price, essentially admitting they were willing to lose money if it meant cutting their interest exposure. Meanwhile, sales staff are given cash bonuses simply to move any unit, regardless of margin, a far cry from the days of fat commissions and easy markups. The floor plan system, once a lifeline that allowed dealers to stock vast selections and lure customers with variety, has become a ticking time bomb. Every day an SUV sits unsold, the financial hole deepens. Dealers can't raise prices to cover the cost because buyers are already spooked by falling values. They can't stop the meter, and they can't slow shipments without risking retaliation from manufacturers. What they face is a classic trap: inventory that depreciates as interest accrues, creating losses so large that even a healthy sales month can't dig them out. For many, it's no longer a question of how much money they will make, but how much money they can lose and still keep the lights on. The floor plan model was built for a world of fast sales and low rates. In 2025, it's become the perfect mechanism for crushing dealerships under the weight of their own inventory. The Kia EV6, at number 8, highlights a different kind of problem: the fragility of the electric vehicle market. With tax credits set to expire, dealers had hoped for a final rush, but instead many EV6s have sat for more than half a year. Customers are hesitant not because the EV6 is a bad car, but because the resale market for EVs has collapsed under the weight of constant Tesla price cuts and the looming cost of battery replacement. There are stories of EV6 buyers in California who drove off the lot and found their car was worth $7,000 less within the first 3 months. That kind of word of mouth has frozen demand. BMW's X2, meanwhile, occupies an awkward space. Not practical enough, not prestigious enough. It has become the poster child for vehicles that have no natural audience in a tightening economy. Dealers slash 15,000 off the sticker and still see little traction. Nissan's Murano, a name once associated with stylish mainstream crossovers, now sits as one of the most bloated inventories in America. With 20,000 units stacked nationwide, it has become a lesson in corporate overreach. Nissan bet that families would continue to stretch their budgets for a semi-premium mid-sized crossover, but at nearly $50,000, buyers simply walk away. One dealer in the Midwest confessed that half his customer interactions now end with a polite laugh when the Murano's price is mentioned. The Infiniti QX55 fares no better. It was meant to embody Japanese luxury with a coup-like SUV design, but instead it has exposed Infiniti's long-running identity crisis. Dealers openly admit they cannot explain why a customer should pick the QX55 over cheaper, more reliable Nissans, or over true German luxury options. Even with $12,000 in discounts, these cars sit idle, mocking their owners. But the countdown doesn't stop at quirky models. At number 4, the Ford Mustang Mach-E reveals the extent of the electric gamble gone wrong. Ford poured billions into electrification, forced its dealers to build charging infrastructure, and promised a tidal wave of customers. Instead, almost 23,000 Mach-E's now sit unsold, piling up on dealer lots. The end of federal tax credits is a looming disaster, and many Ford dealers say they feel abandoned by corporate, left holding expensive inventory that the public doesn't want. A dealer in Michigan claimed he was pressured to accept dozens of Mach-E's he didn't order under the threat of losing allocations for F-150 trucks. The cars are now lined up, unsellable, and every day costs the dealership over $700 in combined interest and maintenance. Maserati's Grecale, number 3 on the list, represents the worst of luxury hubris. Maserati believed it could cash in on the SUV boom by launching an $80,000 crossover with exotic styling. But timing was disastrous, and Maserati's reputation for poor reliability only added to the problem. Now the Grecale has become an industry punchline. One luxury dealer in Florida admitted he offered a Grecale customer a free Ferrari test drive just to entice interest, but even that failed. The vehicles remain on the lot like gilded anchors, dragging down the dealership's bottom line. Dodge's Hornet, number 2, demonstrates how badly mainstream brands can miscalculate. Dodge tried to reinvent itself with a compact crossover. But the Hornet doesn't appeal to Dodge's muscle car loyalists, nor does it win over buyers from Honda and Toyota. Dealers joke that they could give the Hornet away with the purchase of a Ram truck, and still buyers would hesitate. The numbers are brutal: 9 months of supply, thousands in lost interest, and virtually no buzz on the showroom floor. The crown, however, belongs to Jaguar's F-Pace, the undisputed king of failure. With over 300 days of inventory, it has effectively poisoned Jaguar's reputation in America. Dealers describe them as radioactive, units that cannot be moved even with $15,000 in incentives and free maintenance packages. Jaguar's decision to pause product development in 2025 has left its lineup stale, and the F-Pace embodies that stagnation. Some dealers privately admit they would rather auction off their F-Pieces at cost than keep watching the floor plan interest mount. A manager in New York confessed that he mentally calculates how much the F-Pieces cost him each day, and the number, $240, haunts him like clockwork. The deeper problem revealed by these models is not just about slow sales, but about the shifting winds of consumer behavior. The crash was accelerated by 3 forces beyond the control of any single dealer: repossessions, rental fleet liquidations, and the end of cheap credit. Repossessions are now running at historic highs, with more than 15,000 vehicles taken from owners each day, flooding the used car market. Many of these repos are SUVs, often just 2 or 3 years old, and they hit auctions in waves. Dealers who might once have counted on the scarcity of late-model SUVs now find the market oversaturated with bargain alternatives. The average negative equity at repossession is over $6,000, and yet the vehicles still return to circulation at rock-better prices. For a buyer, that's an irresistible option. For a dealer with new inventory, it's a nightmare. Rental companies have added fuel to the fire. Hertz's decision to dump 40,000 Teslas was only the beginning. Enterprise and Avis have followed with their own fleet reductions, many of them focused on SUVs that no longer hold value in a softening market. All told, nearly 2 million rental cars are expected to enter the used pipeline this year, an unprecedented flood. Each one drags prices lower, forcing dealers into desperate discounts on their already bloated inventories. The scale of this liquidation is so large that analysts now describe it as a second wave after the repossession crisis, a tsunami that threatens to wash away dealer profitability for years. Layered on top of this is the death of cheap credit. Interest rates have turned car loans into punishing commitments. In 2022, a buyer might have financed a $50,000 zero-cents SUV at 2.9% interest. In 2025, that same loan often comes with rates of 7% or higher, adding hundreds of dollars to monthly payments. For middle-class families, the math no longer works. They delay purchases, downsize to cheaper used vehicles, or avoid SUVs altogether. This reluctance magnifies the pressure on dealers, who watch their floor plan interest climb while customers vanish. The fallout of the SUV collapse is not confined to dealership balance sheets. It is reshaping the entire automotive landscape in ways that will be felt for years. Communities that once relied on their local dealerships for jobs, financing, and even basic maintenance are watching those businesses teeter on the edge of extinction. The National Automobile Dealers Association has quietly circulated projections that as many as 1 in 4 used car dealerships could shut their doors in the next 12 months. In small towns, that means more than the loss of a showroom. It means the disappearance of the only place where residents can trade in their vehicles, secure loans, or get repairs done under warranty. Already, rural regions of states like Kansas and Montana are reporting dealer deserts, areas where the nearest franchise store may now be more than 100 miles away.